Aries 18, an empty hammock. So a hammock is for relaxation, it's for downtime. In this picture it's empty, suggesting that we're not relaxing enough. And here we're discussing the need for us to respect natural rhythms. And natural rhythms are basically on and off, active and passive, day and night. That's natural. That's the rhythm of being, is that we're pushing out, struggling against everything for half of our lives, and then relaxing, surrendering for the other half. And that natural rhythm of life has to be something that we assimilate, we accept, and we plan for it. We can't just continue to push, work, thrust and strain indefinitely. It's absurd. And yet most people don't really plan in their downtime as much as is necessary. It's not wasted. It's not that we need to rest because we're incapable of working indefinitely. That's not the wisdom. It's that downtime is actually productive in its own way. Now, for example, when we struggle against what comes up in our world, very often difficulties arise that have arisen before, again and again and again. We get the same old problems coming up once more and again and again. Why? Why don't we just contemplate what's going on here? How can we stop that cycle, that pattern of repetitive difficulties? So let's take a difficulty that may come up repeatedly to do with money. Sometimes you have money problems, okay, and then once more you have money problems, okay, and then again you have money problems. Really? Again and again and again? What's going on here? Now, unless you deal with that, you will continue to live in the anxiety of having money problems for the rest of your life. Unless you deal with it, it won't go away. So how do you deal with money problems? There's only two things you need to do. Spend less or earn more. It is that simple. And if you spend more than you earn, you have money problems. If you earn more than you spend, you don't. It is that simple. And unless you actually bring yourself to deal with it, you're going to have a difficulty. It's the same with relationship problems. If the same old relationship problems come up again and again, it's not their fault, it's yours. Whatever problem repeats is necessarily your issue to deal with. The first time, maybe, yeah, it's their fault, but the second time, surely you must come to understand it's yours. And if you don't, the reason that you don't is you're just not thinking it through. And what we're talking about here with the empty hammock is that when we spend downtime, when we just quietly go for a walk alone, or we're not talking about watching the television here, we're talking about lying in a hammock. We're talking about allowing the mind a certain capacity to expand into areas where it doesn't normally go, prevented by the television, to be honest. No, this needs to be time spent alone where your mind is free to wander, and it wanders into the regions where the answers are found to deal with the difficulties that repeat in your life. So we're seeing now that downtime is an aspect of life that's important. You have to contemplate what's going on and ruminate over the difficulties in order to be able to deal with them effectively. Now, in dealing with things effectively, typically we have to find balance, not domination. There's no sense in which putting something down, repressing something, denying something, dominating something is an answer. That's a temporary expedient. That's putting the problem back into the future. The only real way that you can deal with any question at all is to find balance. In the question of money, balance income and expenditure. In the question of relationship, balance what they want with what you want. It's all to do with balance. And balance is an aspect of the heart's functionality. The heart does feel love, and it does feel courage, and it does feel faith, but actually its functionality really is to do with balance. It's a question of finding the wisdom to understand that balance brings harmony, and harmony brings beauty. And beauty is evidence of the rightness of being. So if your life is not filled with beauty, then there's something wrong. You should really be able to choose harmony and beauty and love. That's another one. And these are all created by finding a balance in your heart. Now, we don't really know how to find that balance unless we have this process of struggling against difficulties and then surrendering while we contemplate what those difficulties mean, and then struggling again to try and deal with them in a different way, and then ruminating again about how to do that, and then struggling to try again, trial and error, until eventually it's no longer a difficulty. You no longer have that issue. And there's another one. That's how it goes. And the way in which that works is to find a sense of balance in the heart. In fact, the way we create our identity is measured exactly by our relationship to this very question. To what extent do we challenge difficulties? To what extent do we surrender to them? To what extent do we deal with our problems? To what extent do we repress them and deny them? This interaction of trial and error is what builds character. And that character that we have is the expression of the soul's purpose in life. So the character, the ego, in other words, the personality, is not the soul, it's the vehicle of the soul. And the soul needs a certain type of vehicle, but not a particular one. So we have to interact with the soul to find out what is acceptable, and then a range of personality or characteristics is defined for us, and then we can play with that. And the way we play with that is this trial and error process. So fundamentally what we're saying really is take some time off, rest, relax, take yourself away from all of the distractions that hold your mind locked into a stressful, difficult life. Just allow the mind freedom to discover its own wisdom, and then you can respond to that.